Woodchester Mansion was started in 1840 when William Lee bought Woodchester Park from the Ducey family and had the Georgian Manor House Spring Park demolished to make way for the new building. Woodchester Mansion was designed by Pugin, famous French Gothic architect. They eventually fell out over money, so Pugin didn't oversee the build. That fell in the hands of Benjamin Bucknell, a local architect who lived just down the road in Stroud. Building work started down here in 1850, but ceased in 1870 when there was personal tragedy in the Lee family when they lost two of their daughters, one aged 11 and the other aged 21, who both tragically died from TB. William Lee himself died in 1873, leaving a half-finished building down here, which the family didn't have the drive to finish. They were living in a place called Scar Cottage on the lip of the valley, which had been extended 16 times, which was the main family home. There was further work done on the mansion in the early 1890s when Cardinal Vaughan, the Archbishop of Westminster, was doing a tour of Gloucestershire, so the Lee family were asked if they could entertain his party. So Vincent Lee, William's grandson, did move in briefly to oversee the construction of this drawing room. And following the Cardinal's visit, the Lee family left the building and plans were then put in place for it to be either demolished or sold as it was. It was eventually sold, but during the outbreak of World War I, again the mansion fell into disrepair, and it wasn't used again until World War II, when American and Canadian soldiers were based down here in preparation for the D-Day landings. After they left, the mansion was again derelict, abandoned, and used as a cattle shed for local farmers. And it wasn't until 1957 when Reg Kelly, the local naturalist, discovered 4 species of bat that fly around the building. He came in, saved the building from further disrepair, set up a field study centre for the bats, and kept the building going all the way through to the early 1980s, when it was then bought by Stroud District Council. Woodchester Mansion Trust was then set up, and it's the Trust's job now to maintain the building as a charity. Now, the mansion is open all sorts of activities, but what we are interested in, obviously, is the paranormal activity that goes on within the building. I've been studying the building since 2002, and I started out as a skeptic of the paranormal, but this building has certainly come up with some interesting phenomena which has changed my mind slightly. A couple of my favourite stories. I was here one night with a group supervising the building. It had been a very quiet night. We were all sat in the drawing room, 4 in the morning, and the host of the group said, "We don't put anything on, apologies, we've had no activity." And just as he said that, through the door behind me, we all heard footsteps tattooing up through the wooden corridor. It sounded like high-heel shoes tapping out as they walked towards us. I dashed through the back door, the host dashed through the side door, and we met each other in the middle. There was nobody there. Nobody can explain that. The skeptics in the group that night were completely bemused. It was definitely footsteps, and nobody in the building to have caused them. The other activity that was quite strange again in this drawing room, I was sat here on my own whilst a group were out investigating the rest of the building, and corner of the eye phenomenon, I thought somebody had walked in through the door, and on turning round to the side, there was a little Victorian boy stood in the middle of the room just staring into the corner. Non-interactive, I wouldn't say it was spirit, it was almost like time slip, because he was stood there and all of a sudden it distorted and he faded over a matter of, I would say, less than 5 seconds, but so clear. I can describe him as wearing a grey fleck suit with matching cloth cap. He had bright red rosy cheeks and his boots were shining, really polished to a brilliant shine. The detail was fantastic. Not frightening, it was intriguing, but only a personal experience to myself. I didn't film it, there wasn't time to grab a camera, But for me, that just blew me away. I was wide awake and definitely not imagination. And I think the biggest story of the building, one of the main ghosts that we think haunts this place, is James the builder. Anybody who visits will say that the top floor corridor is one of the locations that really puts people on edge. We put that down to James the builder, who we believe fell to his death. We don't know whether it was murder, manslaughter or an accident. The different stories that come out, I think the one for me, I think what happened, there was a fight and he fell. Accident caused by a fight. He thinks he's the main gaffer in the building, but he is picked up by several groups and he will manifest in different ways. He will cause poltergeist activity, the throwing of stones, moving objects, or he will just put his presence upon you in such a foreboding way he will make you feel very uneasy. Or he's even been picked up on the electronic voice phenomenon where you can actually hear his voice. Sometimes he will come through as James, very often he will pretend to be William, as in William Lee. The mansion is a very strange building and I would recommend it to any paranormal enthusiast.